Okay. Women's financial wellness, women's financial health is such an important topic because it's something that touches everyone. It's something that has a lot tied up in it, in emotion, in shame, in pride, in insecurity and self-confidence, all of the ways that women can both help themselves and self-sabotage. So this is something that we really need to talk about, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Lacy Garcia, who is the CEO of Willow, that is a female-focused fintech and financial education platform. And we are also joined by Candace McGarvey, who is a financial life coach, which is just a term I think is fabulous, who works with Willow, and we're going to have a free reign conversation about the history of women and why finance is such a tricky topic, and how we can get past that and move forward into this new world and optimize for success. So welcome, Lacy. Welcome, Candace. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Jenny, thank you so much for having us.
This is great. And the minute I heard about Willow, I was like, we gotta get Lacy on here. This is just, you're such a great mascot for this topic. So I really appreciate you taking your time to be here. I think it's really sad because financial health and your financial wellness and your financial mindset is so important. We tell women to go out there and to make their own money and how important it is to have your own money. And then often it's like, okay, now what? What do I do with it? What am I supposed to do now? I have the money, and it's like you get frozen. And it's such a place where women feel like triggered. And I'm saying this from my own personal feelings as well, where we're not taught how to deal with money. And we're not taught what to do. And so then all of a sudden you don't know what to do, and you feel really shitty that you don't know what to do about it. Why did you start Willow? Is this something that you also dealt with?
150%, Jenny. In fact, I want to just start by saying, if you feel that if you don't feel confident, if you do feel ashamed, if you feel like you don't know what you're supposed to know, well, you are one of many. You are, first of all, just not alone. In fact, I think only about 19% of all women feel that they have their act together when it comes to their money. And I, for one, was part of the majority who didn't feel like they had their act together in multiple ways. And that is why I started Willow. It was based off of my own personal experience. First, I set out in my career. I started in the education in the nonprofit sector. I never in a million years thought that I would be running a fintech company a couple decades later. I also never thought that I had anticipated my career being kind of an important piece of my life, but second to family. And I, when I got married, I did not expect to become the breadwinner. I did not expect to be in charge of my family finances. And it turns out that 80 to 90% of all women at some point in their lives will find themselves being in charge of their finances, and when they didn't expect to be. And I had that experience. So in a couple different ways. So for starters, I ended up, as I mentioned, I ended up first on the career path. I ended up becoming a private banker, so a financial advisor. And I did that sort of mid-career, and I got to see sort of inside out, I think, what has historically been wrong with financial services and the advisory, wealth management, and kind of how we talk to and how we treat women, and why so many women understandably feel like they're alienated, feel, that they don't have a good relationship necessarily with their advisor. They don't feel like their husband's advisor actually cares about them or tries to have a relationship with them. And especially if the women who are on this call, if you're the breadwinner, the 25% of women who are running, kind of the main breadwinner, or like, I feel that they're being talked down to by their advisor. So I kind of have that experience. But then myself and my personal journey was one where I first of all, I felt like an imposter, because here I am, all of a sudden, I'm the private banker. I'm working with ultra high net worth clients, people who have hundreds of millions of dollars, and I'm, was really the quarterback, but was connecting them and helping them take care of their finances. And then it came to my personal life, and I didn't have a handle on it in any way, shape, or form. And there were lots of complications that I won't get into the dirty details of what ended up happening with my marriage, and then my divorce, and living through some really awful experiences, sort of surviving through things, and basically, but when it came to my own finances, I didn't fall into I wasn't at the ultra high net worth level where I was going to get the personalized support that I was providing to my clients. I was ashamed. I didn't want to admit that I didn't know these things. How could I have ended up in this position? All of that, I lived it. And, that is really where Willow was born out of, because I got access to a coach, and really Willow and Candace McGarvey, who's here with me today, who's one of our financial life coaches, is focused on let's take all the taboo away. Let's make you, the last thing in the world we want you to do is feel bad about yourself, right? We have enough other stuff going on. But the reality is, whatever it is, whatever your circumstances are today, whatever your, your challenges, however, you might be, by the way, listening to this and be totally on top of it and feeling like you just want to up level and really kind of, learn more about investing and diversify, or you could be sitting here and feeling ashamed, right? And the reality is, and I know all the women who are connected to the second shift are all incredibly smart, and talented, but that has no bearing on whether or not you are in control financially. And as you said, historically, we weren't set up to expect that we had to be in charge. You weren't taught how to balance your checkbook. You weren't these crazy things with our multiple advanced degrees. We didn't necessarily learn these things, Jenny.
Well, it's I can't tell you how many women, myself included, but I hear about this from friends, and I've seen it happen within the second shift community, where we are, as women, such strivers and so well educated, and you go out and you're you killed it at school, and you got into the college, and then you've got the career, and then you've got the job, and then you're killing it at the job, and then all of a sudden one day you're I'm making all this money, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with it. Who do I trust it with? Is that guy the guy? How do I know which guy's the guy? What am I supposed to do with this money? And you don't want to go and ask your dad, or that just feels so lame after you're this big, strong, powerful woman who's achieved so much. And then there's this little piece that you're carrying around of confusion and like I said, doubt, shame, fear, all of it. But Candace, I want to go back for a second, because when you think about the history of women and money, it's almost it's the financial patriarchy, and it's the cycle we have to break, because women didn't get their own credit cards until the 70s. I mean, I was born in the 70s. We couldn't take out loans without a male co-signer until around the same time. So there is an epigenetics that is still living through us, because we have to break that pattern.
Yeah. Well, and those generational cycles, breaking that pattern is not easy, right? And what we found is that women were, once we were able to participate in financial stuff, we were coming into what was a male-dominated industry because we had never really been part of it. And you can see evidence of that still today. If you've noticed the stock ticker that goes at the bottom of the screen when you're watching the news, that's modeled after the sports ticker. And what's interesting is, especially when you look at what is happening in a man's brain versus a woman's brain when they're talking about finance. In a woman, it is activating the part of the brain that is more related to security. And in a man's brain, it is activating the part that is looking more at hierarchy or almost competition. So what you see is an industry that has been built on this concept of competition. And so if we feel out of water in that, it's because we are. So one of the reasons we started Willow was to start propagating the idea that you don't have to do it a man's way, right? There's a lot of ways that women have innate skill sets that make them really great investors, for example. Women tend to prefer to buy and hold. That's because they're looking to have a long-term return. They don't want to try to churn the account and trade every day and see if they can get just a little bit more. They would like to buy and hold. And it turns out that is actually a better way to invest for the long term.
Shocking.
So we are, we are in an industry that we're having to sort of remake so that it fits the way women think a little bit more. So that's why we decided that coaching was really what was needed to be able to provide not just the practical side, but to also include the emotion, because money is an emotional topic.
Also, it's tied to so many emotional things, because it's tied to like the good things, right? Money is tied to like, I want to buy a house. Yay, that's a celebration. I got divorced. That's a terrible situation. I want to have a baby. All of these big things that are emotional are tied in so many ways to money. So it's something that you can't get away from. So you really need to embrace. Yeah. And I'm saying this to myself as I'm saying this out loud.
Well, and Jenny and Candace, I want to just jump in on that and saying that it's not just a male-female thing either, or a man kind of woman thing, right? It's all sort of genders. And I think that what is exciting, and I just came back from this, the Tiburon CEO Summit, which is historically, I think there were 20 women out of 250 kind of women in the wealth management. It's a very prestigious wealth management event. But what was one of the leading kind of trends and topics on the main stage is not only the importance of actually the industry transforming to better serve women and previously underrepresented groups, but the reality that money is emotional, right? And that it is driven, 70% of financial kind of decisions are driven by emotions. And so it's not just us, right? It's realistically most people, right? And the reality is that the industry and the approach is antiquated, and it needs to transform, right? Because at the end of the day, you said it, whether or not it's a positive and a exciting and great event, and you've got lots of money, but you still need to navigate those, kind of happy moments and those positive like cash flows, or, it's a challenging and and kind of difficult period from it. Really, a lot of it is about the emotions and kind of knowing how to manage those, and to get the knowledge, the information, have the confidence that you need to be able to make the right decisions. And you know what, we can't do it alone, right? We need to be able to get access to the right information and the right guidance, and kind of trusted experts. But we also need to have ourselves be in a place and have that mindset, right? Where we can then feel empowered to be able to make the right decisions.
Okay, walk me through what Willow exactly does. because I know you have a variety of services that you offer. And if somebody's interested in learning more and taking part in what your offerings are, it's really about that empowering piece of it and the mindset piece of it. It's not about like, this is where we're going to tell you to put your money. So what sets you guys apart?
Yes.
What is the thesis behind Willow?
So at a high level, we are helping to transform financial services to better serve what we call the new majority, which is women, which is previously kind of underrepresented groups, which is members of the LGBTQ+ community, and also with a real focus around the emotions in the life events, such as, widowhood, divorce, fertility and adoption, career, entrepreneurship. And so we are, but if you're, for the people who are listening to this podcast today, you can come to Willow and sign up for free for education and tips. So we have content, we have a library of videos and short articles. Everything was designed, by the way, to be really easy to read in between, meetings or school pickups or whatever it is, while you're on the Peloton. Like, we want this to be kind of relevant and easy. It's all focused around who are you, what's your life journey, what's the quick information, so that we're eliminating just at first that 20 to 30 minute Google process that then you don't even know whether or not you're getting like the right advice, right? So that's for starters. Then you can browse and sign up for coaching. And Candace is an example of one of our coaches, but we have this growing network of amazing, primarily women, but we actually just added a male coach this week. Exciting. So we are sort of, there's, as I said, it's not just for women because men are trying to get on the bandwagon as well. We focus more on really kind of your mindset. So anybody who's had experience with coaching, like life coaching or career coaching, this is effectively financial coaching that's really, it's integrated with life coaching. So we are very much goals-based coaching, kind of helping you to get a handle on where you are today, set a plan, have a roadmap, think through the format and actually, let me take a quick step back. We use a 5A model at Willow, and then Candace can go into it a little bit more, but we kind of help you. We call it the 5 A's. First, you need to be aware of where you are, like, and what your financial picture is and where everything is and how much money you really have. Because, the reality is so many smart, talented, successful women don't actually know like how much money they have or how much money their partner makes or what types of liabilities that they have, so it's getting that awareness first is critically important. The second is to aspire. Like, what are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? So understanding, what are you based around your values and like what's really important to you. Third is the acting. Like, so what are the tactics? What are the steps that you need to take? Like, this is the guidance, right? Like, what financial moves should you be making? Third is that you got to be ready to adapt. Or fourth, you got to be ready to adapt. Fourth is adapt, because, hey, life throws us curveballs all the time. Best laid plans go totally awry. And then the fifth is a really important one, which we actually added. We didn't launch the company with the fifth, but we realized we need to take time to appreciate, because the reality is that there are, instead of all we do, if you're a high achieving perfectionist, like, which I think so many of us are, right? All you do is focus on what you didn't get done, what you still need to do, like what goals you haven't. And you don't take the time to pat yourself on the back and think about the progress that you are making. And that is so critically important, like, for that healthy mindset and for that, ability to then be empowered to continue to propel yourself forward.
So Candace, if I'm coming to you and I am a woman who says, like, here's my goal, I want to pay off all my student debt, or I want to buy a house, or I'm getting divorced and I have to figure out what I'm going to do and what my budget is, or even like how to think about money in a settlement. How do you start? Where do you start?
We talk about, there's usually a trigger for the fact that a woman reached out for help. So I like to start with that because that's usually right where the crux of the matter is. From there, we go to talking, getting that awareness phase going. So in the example of someone who is trying to pay off student loans, making sure they know exactly, what is the interest rate? What are their options? Is there any, there's forgiveness going on right now. So just being aware of the situation. So many times we come to the money topic with that shame and guilt, and we just avoid it. And we know it's not great, but it's overwhelming otherwise. And we've got so many other balls, that we're trying to keep up in the air, that we sometimes just have to do that. It's pretty much a coping skill. So, rather than making you feel bad about it, together we just sort of walk through and see what's going on here. Let's become aware of the real inventory. Then we set some realistic goals, and that's the aspire stage. We know that in society, one of the big goals is just have as much money as you possibly can. Well, usually there's more to it than that. There's either somebody that you want to protect, or there's a reason that you're saving up, or there's a reason you want to become debt-free. And so that's really where we make sure we've got realistic goals that are achievable. Because so many of us, have these 20-year down the line, goals, and we have to start with tomorrow. So what are those smaller steps going to be to get to that final goal? And then we take action on it. This is where a coach can be really helpful just by providing someone as another voice to be able to say, you can do this, you're going to do great, and to hold them accountable. We don't get a whole lot of that in the financial world. So it's sort of playing the role of your friend and your cheerleader. And then after we have put things into action, a lot of people don't need coaching for more than, a few months. They get to a point where they're independent and they trust themselves and they're doing great. So oftentimes I may not hear from a client again until something hits their life that causes them to have to adapt. And so we are of the mind that if you set your expectation that those adaptations are going to take place or going to be required, it becomes less disappointing when life doesn't turn out the way you planned. And then finally, we would, make sure that you're spending the time to appreciate all of the wealth that you do have, whether it's monetary or not, just because we find that makes all the rest of the steps a lot more effective.
I think it's awesome. And sometimes I think about, personally and professionally, that when it comes to the finance piece of it, if it's not something that is intuitive and it's not something that you really have been taught or understand, it's almost like we're you've got your whole life in order, everything, you're goal oriented, you've set all these things that you're going to do. It's, you're working out and you're healthy and your kids are good. And you really, all the things you understand are there. And then there's the junk drawer. Yeah. And it's the junk drawer of your life where you're like, I'm just not going to look in it because it's messy and everything else is good. So I just don't want to touch the messy drawer. But think about how great it feels the day that you go through the messy drawer and you organize everything. And then there's so much power in that on the other side of it. And I would assume, Lacy, for you, having gone through this and then, what you went through and then founding a company into that space, you must feel such a tremendous amount of self-confidence and power in yourself for having gotten to the other side.
Jenny, by the way, I just love that that you just used the junk drawer. I'm like, that is so amazing because it is that feeling, right? That feeling of feeling actually like you can breathe, right? That you kind of have have control of the things that you didn't even want to acknowledge, right? And I mean, and I certainly myself personally, I feel like you know, yes, I am deeply honored, you know, that I've had this opportunity in my life to be able to you know, be a catalyst with Willow, and with we have so many amazing women and people who are involved with the company, but we've got this tremendous growing network of coaches, and I've been able to connect with leaders like Candace, who really started this industry, and connecting, you know, connecting so many women. But, and I will say, I got, you know, yesterday I got a text that I get text like this, you know, once a week, probably, from people. You know, I have a friend of mine reached out. I have a friend, and she, I might almost cry telling the story, but she's just like, she doesn't know what to do. You know, she's all of a sudden been blindsided. Her name's not on any of the accounts. You know, she's getting divorced, and she's just doesn't know what to do. And realistically, and this woman, I think, is a doctor, right? You know, and the reality is that is, you know, I had like my own experience of that, and yes, and it's going to be okay. You know, the most important thing is, if you're going through something like that, it's going to be okay, right? You can get off to the other side of it, but it can seem so overwhelming, right? And that isn't everybody's journey, but that was my personal connection to why I started this company and this platform, really, right? Because you shouldn't have to feel alone in that situation. You know what I'm saying? And you should know that here's the roadmap to get to the other side. You'll have your own experience and your own journey, but there are lots of people there who can empathize and who can support and who can guide you through this.
As two women who are in a space that is really important and growing, and there historically has been like very underrepresented in terms of women who are in finance, women who are financial advisors, women who are founders, women who are in the charge of businesses. That, you know, there's just like, there's so few women who are in your industry and shaking it up. Do you think that the industry is going to shift itself around to incorporate, or is it going to do what you guys are doing and just sort of like starting off on your own? Because when you see, you know, I'm sitting across from Citibank, and, you know, everyone's back in the office, and you hear about all the ways in which it's just going back to normal, and normal was not great for women. Yeah. Not great for women who worked there, not great for women who wanted to invest, who want to learn. So are you guys in the forefront of like where we're going? Or are we going to force the industry to change, or both? So Jenny, I'm so happy you asked that question, because I think I started down the path of explaining how we work with individuals, right? But one of the other parts of Willow, sort of our business model, is that we're pushing the industry to change. We want the industry to transform. And what that means is we are actually partnering with a lot of the big bad a lot of these institutions to help them to transform, because they have to, right? They can't go back. And that means helping them to first know how to even talk to women, how to actually, you know, to be able to, you know, start by, instead of sitting down and trying to show you spreadsheets, to actually ask who you are, what you do, what are your goals, you know, which is ridiculous, but it still doesn't happen, right? So starting there, kind of as simple as that, but then also making sure, so the network of Willow Financial Life Coaches who are diverse, we're connecting them into teams of, dare I say, white men, you know, who don't, but actually helping them to better kind of diversify and engage, because the clients don't look the same. Like this great wealth transfer and moving forward, you know, it's not just for them, it's not just the golfing buddies. And in order for all of us to be better served, the industry does need to transform, right? So we have this, I guess, to your point, we have a direct
I call it both a direct and an indirect kind of strategy for Willow. And one is to have a platform and a resource for any woman who's going through, navigating the ups and downs of life that have financial implications, can come and can at bare minimum get free kind of tips and guidance, can schedule a call with a coach, but also we're partnering with these big institutions, not Citigroup yet, but like we're working with BlackRock and Principal and all these other big firms, and we're helping them to transform their workforce, to transform, like similar to what you're doing, the model, because realistically embracing the fact that most professional women want flexibility, want a hybrid or remote work environment. So, and the culture, an inclusive culture that actually supports, not only our clients, but the team, because we know the data that diverse teams outperform, right? So, if you want to be successful, then you got to diversify.
Not only that, women are, like we said, women are making a lot of money.
Totally.
Women have access to a lot of money. Women are, killing it. So it is in the best interest of financial institutions to figure out a way to make women feel comfortable investing that money and having the confidence and the know-how so that they don't, I know that there's been times where I'm like, I'll just keep it in my bank account. It feels good there, makes me feel safe. And if I just keep it there, then I'll know that I'm not gonna lose it. And taking that risk of like, I invest in something, I don't know what's gonna happen if you're not confident and knowledgeable, is a big fear for many women, right, Candace?
Well, yeah, and I think
I'm like, I'll just keep it under my mattress. It's fine, it's safe.
Right. But I will say there are times when I can make the argument that maybe some of it does need to be under your mattress, or because of the sleep at night factor. If you are losing sleep at night, you're not performing in any of your roles, and we know there's tons of them. You're not performing at your top abilities. So if money is causing you to lose sleep because you're wondering what happens if I invested in this, then that's not necessarily worth it either. And sometimes we have to prioritize our emotional wellness over even the size of our portfolio. So that's an important thing to remember. And that's kind of a foreign notion to a lot of people.
That's true. If you think about it, it's like, there's lots of different ways that people invest money. It doesn't necessarily mean that those are for everyone, because you may not be the kind of person who can take the risk of investing in a startup. Right. And it's not going to feel good to you to wait 10 years and see if it plays itself out. Yeah. And I would person who, just wants to be like, I love Amazon. I buy literally everything in my life on Amazon. I'm just going to go all in on it. Right.
Right. And as long as you have done, a decent analysis to figure out if that is your goal, is you're a mega fan of Amazon and you're willing to take the up and down risk because you have other things going on, then go for it. But the idea that everyone has to have the same goal to maximize their portfolio, it's just not reality, and it's not helping us, live up to our potential, because we get anxious and nervous, and then we talk about all the time that your greatest asset is probably your human capital and your earning power over the next several decades. So we want to make sure that you're able to perform well there, and you're not going to do that if you're sidetracked by these risks that you're taking.
Also, what your temperament is and your capability to withstand.
Yes.
And how what makes you feel like it's safe and what makes you feel like it's fun, where you are and who you are as a human. Have you ever thought about bringing this as an educational model for younger women? I don't know if there's any sort of where we cater to more mid-career, midlife women. But this is the kind of thing where they definitely taught me home ec. They taught me how to make a snickerdoodle in school. But it would have been really awesome if they had given me access to somebody who was like, here's what a, IRA is and a 401k, and here's how you're going to think about investing and all the things that like then make you feel so like seized up and fearful, and that you have to like play catch up.
Yeah,
Because it might not be what you wind up doing. And,
No.
I was never going into finance. I hate math. This was not
Yeah.
going to be my life, but I would have been, I can balance a checkbook. That's basic math. That's not that hard. It's more the like institutional understanding about how money works.
Yes. And I think part of the problem is that because the financial industry is so complex, we assume that it is going to take a lot for us to understand it. And the reality is you don't have to understand everything. You just have to understand the parts that apply to your life. So that's one of the things that we do in terms of educating our clients. And you'll be happy to know I have a couple of teenagers who are learning personal finance in a public school. So they are, we're beginning to reverse that trend. But by the same token, for our generation, yes, there is some relearning that needs to take place. But I like to say, if you can organize a shopping trip to the store, you can invest. Like there's tools and things that make it pretty simple from an intelligence perspective or a cognitive perspective. It's not that difficult. You just have to focus on the parts that relate to you.
We can all do this. This
Totally.
we can do a
Totally.
whole lot of really hard things.
Right.
There's no reason why we can't do this. It's just that we don't want to.
Yeah.
True.
Well, and also just to jump in, there's two things that I think we have to acknowledge. Right now is hard, right? With inflation and also with the volatility in the market. I mean, I opened up my portfolio statement this morning and I wanted to cry, right? So anybody, and I know last week there was, some commentary about how far down my son's 529 plan was. And my dad, I was talking with my dad and he was like, well, at least he's not going to college anytime soon. And he's 8, but there are probably women listening here who are like, yeah, next year. And what are we going to do? I mean, so first of all, it is a challenging time, but like the markets do go up and down, right? So that's one thing it's back to that, stay the course, you're not alone.
Everything goes in cycles. Just be prepared to bear down for a little while.
Everything goes, and there are specific kind of tips and tricks and like sort of to help, but like acknowledging it's a hard time, and B, like I'm so happy, Candace, that your children are getting that education, and more. I think that they're proactively through schools and the government, and there's a lot of efforts to teach younger women. We have some through the work we do with clients. We do we do seminars, training, but I think one thing I've learned too over the course of my lifetime is 2 things, like how to say no and how to focus.
Can't do all the things. I get it. Yeah.
Like, because otherwise you don't get anywhere when you try to boil the ocean, right? So realistically, Willow itself is not focused on those efforts. We're personally, and I think most of our coaches are kind of doing a lot of volunteer work and helping, but for now, sort of the folks on the phone are our core audience, and trying to transform those big, financial institutions who have historically done not such a great job, right, of supporting us. But that said, it's critical because, hey, I mean, we all would have been better off if we learned, how to, what the pros and cons of a credit card were, instead of just how to make a snickerdoodle, right?
I mean, I think back on certain things, like I went to college and I went to like Duke. Yeah. I was very smart and and did really well in school. And then I got to college and I remember like my mom, they had like the booth set up. I mean, this is like the 90s. So this is olden days, whatever. But like they had the booth set up and I went and opened like a Wachovia debit card because, I was in North Carolina. And I remember I didn't know that like they would follow me. And at one point I just I don't know, I forgot, I wasn't paying attention and I didn't have any cash in there because it wasn't it was like my mom would send me money. I don't even remember how it was set up at the time, but that was like my debit card. And then I like went home one time and I was like, I don't understand. What do you mean? They had like, no, I don't need to deal with that account. That account just goes away. And I understand so many of these things are like, that's youth, but and irresponsibility. But at the same time, like, how did I not understand that it was a bank and they attached themselves to my like, or the idea of credit even. What is credit?
You were not alone. I don't think
No.
any of us, I had no idea. I had terrible credit. I didn't even have a credit card until I was like 23 years old. And same thing. It's like, I think at that point no, it was actually, yes, it was before I went and got my MBA, but I had already had one master's degree. I had no idea that I needed a credit card.
I had like my mom's credit card. I didn't ever know that. And you know what, honestly, like credit is to me, like one of the biggest topics that women need to talk about, because like you and I, Lacy, I am separated, getting divorced. And it's, you know, I'm in a situation where like, I've been married since I was 25. You don't have your own credit. If you didn't think about that when you were 24 years old and like how important that would be. And then one day you need to go set up a Spectrum account and you can't because you have no credit.
That's a tip for every woman on this who's listening to this. Make sure that you have a credit card in your name and you're building your own credit, because you never know what's going to happen. Jenny, that's such a really good point. And I mean, and we weren't taught, like we weren't, you know, the reality is, so don't feel any shame. Like we weren't taught, but it's critically important. Yeah. Cause you can't then go buy a house. You can't get a car loan. You can't, even if you have money, right?
It doesn't matter. You don't have your own credit. And you know, that like Wachovia mistake you made in 1997 is going to come back and bite your ass, because that's the last time you had credit.
Yeah.
That luckily was not my story, but that easily could have been.
Sure.
And I'm sure you see that all the time. Are there any other, before we wrap this up, because I know, I want to ask if there's any questions that our audience has, but are there other like similar kinds of mistakes or tips that you would give people that you see over and over again that maybe we can just put out like a PSA right now? Tell them to, you know, credit's one.
I mean, you got to have that emergency fund, right? Everybody says it, and I would almost double it. You know, they say what, 3 to 6 months, but I mean, I think having that emergency fund, especially when you're in market conditions, but because it allows you to have the ability to be better prepared for the unexpected, like when things happen, right? You know, say a hurricane, you know, or a divorce or braces. I mean, whatever it may be, right? Or to start your own business. So I think, in addition, you know, I would say that's just also real critical. Candace, you jump in though.
Yeah, no, that would be, I think the emergency fund ends up being such an all-around winner because it provides you with that financial stability, but it also provides you with that emotional confidence that you can handle what is coming. So I know in my case, I was a certified financial planner, and I knew all the things that I needed to know to be a financial professional. And then I had a sick child, and that's enough to wreck you. So there's a lot of, I think this is why we really focus on that adaptation aspect of our process. Is you just have to be ready to adapt to whatever that is. And an emergency fund can take you a long way, if for no other reason, it gives you the time to emotionally process whatever has happened while your finances are taken care of for a little while. So
I think that's smart. So you're saying at least 6 months in an emergency fund. And especially now, so many people, it's like everyone's getting hired, then they're getting fired, and then they're getting hired. It's such a churny world we live in. Having the ability to know that you can weather that for a period of time until it either smooths out or you get to the next opportunity is really very
huge.
important.
And that's not, it doesn't seem achievable for everybody, right? I mean, I will say, I know, like, because most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, right? And even if you're making a lot of money, you know,
Expenses just get bigger.
Life is expensive, you know, private school, whatever, it's not cheap. So but I can say firsthand from my experience, because many times paycheck to paycheck, but like I have you know, I have a large emergency fund or cash cushion or whatever. And it is the main thing that has helped me to sleep at night. Having that, knowing that, okay, I got a year. But that was really important to me. And it wasn't easy to get to that. Like, it was definitely not easy to get to that, for sure.
I'm sure that that's one of the things that you teach women how to do, is put aside
Yeah.
money and to do it slowly, and that there's,
Absolutely.
you know, a way to make it happen.
Yeah, we're not
And I
gonna
only
shoot
do
for
that
6
now that I had so many other things where I didn't have that, right? You know, so if you're, because I didn't want to ever have to be there again, you know, but.
And again, that's the long-term goal. Your short-term goal is going to be, let's just have $1,000.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
we got to start somewhere, and we cannot put ourselves, you know, we can't say that we're not successful until we have 6 months. You're successful every month that you put more in there, and you've got to appreciate what you have.
Completely.
This was fantastic.
Yeah.
I feel better already. And also, I think I'm going to take the course.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm going to do it, because again, like, there's just so many things I don't feel confident and don't feel like I know. And you can fake it till you make it, except for you kind of can't in a lot of ways when it comes to finances. There's not really a faking it. Faking it is just ignoring it. And it is definitely, for me, an area where I'm like, I feel very confident in so many aspects of my life, except for this piece of it. So I'm going to sign up and I'm going to do the course, and I'm thrilled. So thank you for coming and being part of this and inspiring me today.
You're welcome.
Well, Jenny, thank you. I mean, you are such an inspiration in the second shift and to what you're doing. And I mean, and again, you're not alone. You're part of the majority, because the majority of women, you know, no matter how smart, accomplished, on top of it you are, most of us don't feel like we got it together in this area of our life, right?
But we can. That's the best part.
Very much. It's totally achievable. It is totally achievable.
Okay,
and that's why we're here.
I want to just point out, Nancy just wrote into the Q&A. So for anyone who came in on the later side, Lacy Garcia is the CEO of Willow, which is a education and fintech company that has coursework and programming around your financial mindset and your financial well-being. Candace McGarvey is a financial life coach who works with Willow, and they have all sorts of courses that can touch on sort of the broad topics of your financial mindset and well-being, but also if you have like very specific needs, if there's goals and things that you're working towards. So check it out. We're going to put all of this information attached to this webinar or podcast, depending on how you're getting this information. And you have really generously offered different ways in which the second shift community can get discounted rates on Willow services. That's really just awesome. And that is what I will be taking part of. So I hope that everyone else joins me in changing our mindset around our financial well-being and really feeling strong and powerful about money, because there shouldn't be any little pockets of insecurity and shame or fear. It's unnecessary when there's companies like Willow that can just teach us what to do to get past them and get past those blocks. So thank you for making that happen for us and for creating that company.
Well, Jenny, thank you so much for what you're doing. And thank you for everybody who's listening today, because you're taking time to invest in yourself, right? You talk about your health and well-being, you know, just as important it is to go to the doctor, get on the Peloton, or, you know, go to Pilates. Really making sure that you open up and dust off that drawer around, you know, that what was the
junk drawer,
the junk drawer of finances. Like, you know, financial stability and well-being is a critical piece your overall health and wellness. And so taking the time to kind of just address it head on is really important. So, give yourself a pat kind of for doing that today. Yeah.
All right. Bye, ladies. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you for
Thank you,
everybody who came, and I really appreciate your time and effort, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Jenny.
Bye. Take
Bye.
care.